Hello and welcome to the second tutorial in running a successful Bukkit server. So this is going to be pretty simple. I'm going to explain what kind of these files mean and how to use them and what's going on. So let's start with the plugins folder. If we click on this, right now the folder is empty. The way the plugins folder works is the community of Bukkit will create all these different plugins that are free to use for you. These plugins can include World Edit, World Guard, Log Block, etc. And all you do is drop the jar file in here and it will automatically generate everything the plugin needs to run. I will explain the plugins later when we actually get to installing some plugins in later tutorials. Next are these world folders. There are three of them: World Nether, World End, and Main World. And you have probably seen these before if you're working with save files in Minecraft. It's pretty straightforward, same as they are in Minecraft. But if we click on one, we see all these different folders. There's Data, Players, Region. These are advanced, and you will not really need to use any of these when running your server. But pretty much this is just where all the world data is stored. These regions are chunks, if you might know what that means. But yeah, so those are what those files are. And the same goes for the world nether and the world end. Now here's banned IPs.txt. Banned IPs is where you will store your banned IP addresses for your users. If you have a user that is being abusive and you need to ban them, you can enter their IP address right here, or there's a command inside Minecraft Bukkit that allows you to ban a player with their IP, and it will automatically enter it in here. So if you need to manually enter an IP, you just follow this setup, which is name the player, the ban date, the banned by, which is who banned them, and banned until, and the reason for the ban. And so that's pretty much the banned IPs. And then here's banned players. This will not ban a player's IP address. It will only ban their name. And what that means is an IP address is an address that is specific to each person's router. You have an IP address if you're watching this video right now. Your friend has an IP address if they live in a different house. And that's pretty much what an IP address is a little address specific to each number. And when you ban an IP, it means anyone who is on that IP address cannot join. So if your friend is over and you are IP banned from a server and they're on your network and they try to join that server, they will not be able to. And any of your friends or any of your family that is on that same IP address will not be able to join that server until your IP address resets in approximately 30 days. And that's good if you have someone who has many different accounts and who's trying to get on with their different accounts. You can actually just IP ban them all in all. And so banned players just bans the player's account rather than their IP address. So if that player has a brother or a sister who wants to get in the same house, they still can because their IP is not banned. Yeah, so that's pretty much how it works. And then here's the bukkit.yml. I will edit this with Notepad++, but inside are just really specific settings that you do not need to worry about. Unless you want to get advanced, but I highly suggest you don't. This is only for those who have had much experience for Bukkit. But yeah, so that's pretty much what's going on. I feel like the only thing you can change, or should change, maybe the monster and the animal list limit per chunk, if you really need to, although you really don't need to right now. This is just fine. I highly suggest to keep this the same. And so we can close this. And craftbukkit.jar is the main jar for Bukkit. So when your server runs, every file it needs is accessed from this jar. And it's pretty straightforward. You don't need to edit this at all. Just download the correct version and rename it to craftbukkit.jar each time you need to update. Help.yml is a little help file included for Bukkit. You will not need to read this. I am explaining pretty much everything in here, so you don't even need to look at that. Ops.text is a way to op, and quotations around that because I'm not a big fan of the word, or administrate a user. So I would enter your own name into the ops.text, and so once you've entered a username, you press enter, and then you're ready for the next username or another player. But make sure you divide each username on its own line, or else the ops.text will not work. Pretend this was a username, and this was a username, and this was a username. If these were all actual usernames, which they might be, I don't know, then these players would be opt on the server or pretty much administrated with every command. And we can close this, and we don't need to save because those are not actual people as far as I know. And we can look at permissions.yml. Permissions.yml is by default empty. You will barely use permissions, and you pretty much never edit this file. And here's the server.log, which is pretty much a startup file for your server. And let me just open this in Notepad++ so you can see easier. But this is just the startup log for the server. And this is good if you need to look over errors with plugin starting or something along the lines of that. And it's pretty simple. You can just pretty much see what the server went through when it ran. And yeah, so that's the server log. And then the server.properties are things you will actually mess with. If you want to make your server a creative type server, or survival, or set the difficulty, the PvP, etc., you can do that here. I will be going over this in more depth in the next tutorial. So we don't need to look at this now. We'll look at that in the next one. And here's the whitelist.txt. And in here is people you want to whitelist to your server. So if you have a server that only allows a certain amount of people on, you only want your friends to be on, you only want people of your family to be on, you would enter their names in the whitelist.txt. And if you just entered all these usernames right now, like this, it would not work because we have not enabled it in the server.properties, which I will go over in the next tutorial. But that's pretty much it for explaining what's up with the server folder, and I will see you in the next tutorial.